Good morning and welcome to our 29th September Community Board meeting. These are definitely new times for us, and I can see everyone's got their masks on, which is fantastic. We've got no apologies. We do have Jeremy on Teams though, just so everyone knows. And I'd just like to remind everyone to keep our masks on while we have our public forum. And can I please invite our first guest, which is Wendy?
Stand at the entrance here.
Yeah, that's fine. Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Just like to remind you, you've got 5 minutes to address the board.
Thank you. So I'm Wendy Tomlin, and we're currently building at 85 Malloy Road. The proposal that I'd like to talk to is the Sheriff Block and the motocross and speedway specifically. I have a strong objection to the motocross and speedway for the following reasons. The recommended option is for 4 hours, as you said, at varying times, which I believe will be very difficult, if not impossible, to manage in terms of containing those times. I believe it will set up acrimony between the affected parties and the motocross and speedway people. I would question why our land that we were currently building but haven't completed was subdivided for residential use when I don't believe that this, the proximity of this activity is suitable for residential living. And I'd just like to say that we've spent thousands of dollars meeting environmental impact concerns in order to undertake our build. We've done that with good grace, and we understand the reasons why, but to be potentially blasted with noise pollution and carbon emissions will severely affect our lifestyle and essentially prevent us from living the lifestyle that we believe that this area offers. Oh.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just before you go, did anyone have any questions? No? Okay, thanks, Wendy. Thanks. Is she there?
Can Jeremy hear?
Could you hear Jeremy? Could you hear that presentation? We can't hear you.
No, I heard it. I could just hear it. It was fine.
Okay.
This is Katie.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just there if you like.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, are you okay?
Can I give you those?
Welcome.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Collier, here on behalf of Murray Board, Chair of the Body Harbour and Simpsons Beach Ratepayers Association, with reference to the footpath construction program Mercury. The Body Harbour community has agitated for at least 40 years to construct a properly formed footpath running the length of State Highway 25 through the Body Harbour settlement. This is seen as an essential safety feature for the community. Wasbrook submitted to PCDC seeking provision for such a footpath in the LTP 2021-2031. While the final LTP did not provide for the requested footpath, the community was assured by the then area manager that the issue would be addressed as part of the community board's annual footpath construction program. The comprehensive report on footpath construction, which is part of the agenda for today's community board meeting, lists the requested footpath and body pathway as high priority projects. There is a separate list of medium low priority projects. Surprisingly, the comprehensive report concludes that progressing the medium low priority project provides the best option for the community board to adopt. That recommendation to the community board is completely illogical and poorly reasoned. how medium-low priority projects can trump high priority projects is unfathomable. The only real justification for the recommendation is that staff believe that Whakatahi has committed to construct footpaths through Parakāho. That is not the case. Wasbrook asks the community board to reject the recommendation that the list of medium-low priority projects be adopted, and the board take the lead in ensuring the safety of pedestrians at Parakāho. For far too long, TCDC has avoided this issue by deferring to Whakatahi. At the same time, Whakatahi has constantly avoided the issue by looking to TCDC to take the lead in construction of the desired footpaths. The Parakāho community has been patient for 40 years. However, the community needs action, and it needs it now. My comments are, on Easter weekend this year, we conducted a house-to-house survey asking our residents what they wanted, needed from the LTP 2131. The overwhelming response was for safe passage along State Highway 25, a footpath cycleway that would allow them and their children and those reliant on mobility scooters access through their local community and over the hill to Waianga. Mums with children and strollers are seriously at risk, as there is no alternative to sharing State Highway 25 with trucks, trailers, construction vehicles, and ever-increasing traffic flow. Mobility scooters are out of the question, and riding a bike over the hill is dangerous for an adult and a death wish for a child. It is now not a question of if, but when there is a serious accident. At our AGM this year, I asked the attending councillors whether one of our children had to die to get a result. The response was, yes, possibly. We have waited 40 years for a responsible decision. Are you the team that are finally going to commit to making a right decision for Parakāho? Or will once again that famous quote from Thomas Sowell ring true? It is hard to imagine a more stupid or dangerous way of making decisions than by putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you. Just before you go, did anyone have any questions, lady? Thank you. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you, team. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm here to discuss or talk about the Sheriff Block land proposal, and in particular the request by Motocross to have a track out there. We sent in our points of view as part of the proposal that Alan today has then passed on to you guys for viewing. And again, our concern really is this really a fit piece of land for motocross and also speedway at the same time? Having seen what Alan's written in the proposal was 3 different options. One is don't do it, one is do it as it is, and the third one being a shortened version of 4 hours a week, but not knowing when that quite would be. Our major concern is how can we control that noise if they're going to have one event every month, which is an 8-hour event. Are they going to have 100 bikes there or 200 bikes? How much dust is going to be brought up from this? And then if they do that on a Saturday and then Speedway want to do something on a Sunday, we have a whole weekend of noise floating around. And again, we're just wondering if this is really the right place for this to be. We gave the thumbs up for Speedway on the basis that we thought that was acceptable and had been there for a long time. But now that we put the two together, I've sort of revisited that and thought, well, actually, maybe we've actually put our head in the noose and we've allowed one option, and if the second one was to go ahead, then we have a whole weekend every weekend. Essentially, we would be stuck with noise all weekend, and I think that would affect the whole area around airport zone, the residential people, as well as ourselves who are up on the hill. But again, you know, we're great believers in supporting youth through our own business, and we think it's a great activity, but we just don't feel it's appropriate in that particular area. And our overall concern is how do you control how that group would operate, and I think the restrictions that you would put on them, even though they would be there as a restriction, it's like possession is 9/10 of the law. We've got it now, we can sort of do what we like, and then we get to fight with the council guys who are in charge of trying to oversee those restrictions and trying to keep them in check. And I think seeing how the group is already operating, trying to gain momentum, thinking that they've already got the proposal over the line and are already out there in the public, trying to get materials and stuff for their new track that they've put out on the social media, just gives me an indication of, you know, how they sort of operate and how they think it's all go ahead, let's go gangbusters, and there's not going to be any way of controlling that situation. So again, I don't want to waste your guys' time, but to me it just seems like it's a great proposal, but it's in the wrong place and it needs to go somewhere else. Again, Speedway, we've given them the benefit of the doubt because they generally are a smaller operation, less noise generally, not as many bikes, and a bit more control, where I think the motocross is really a lot harder to control and keep sort of the impact down. So it's not just noise, it'll be dust as well, which will be an issue. So thank you for this opportunity. I hope that the right decisions get made, I guess.
Before you go, does anyone have any questions of Richard? No? Okay, thank you for coming in.
Okay,
Thanks. That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, right, may I have a mover and a seconder for our public forum, please?
I will move that.
Thank you, Deli, seconded by Murray, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, carried. Okay. Conflicts of interest. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest? No? And I'll ask you again before we start the grants process if anyone feels they have a conflict of interest there as well. Any items not on the agenda? Nope. So minutes for confirmation, that's item 1.6. I have a couple of comments. They're very small. On page 7, when we talk about the museum management agreement, should it run from 1st July to 30 June?
Yes, technically that's for the financial year, so we really had to put it in as that financial year.
But it says here 1st of June.
Let's say 1st of June?
Yeah, it says 1st of June 2021 to 30 June 2024.
It should say 1st of
Yeah,
July.
so should it say 1st of July?
Absolutely.
Yep, okay. And the other thing that I had that was real minor, on page 12, under the tsunami sirens, it's called the Rural Connectivities Trust, not Communities Trust. It would have been hard to hear over Teams.
I wasn't here that meeting.
Oh, okay, so it's just in that one. That's all that I had. Any other comments?
No.
Mover and a seconder for the minutes, please.
I'll
Thanks, Deli, seconded by Bill. All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? None, carried. So that takes us to item 2.1, which is the renewal of funding agreements on page 15. May I have a mover and a seconder for the report, please?
I'll move.
Thanks, Tony, seconded by Jeremy. Any comments? Okay, so all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None,
Aye.
carried. It's one down for you, Heather. Correspondence report, we just have one letter. A mover and seconder for the correspondence report, please. Moved by Murray, seconded by Bill. Did you want to talk to this letter?
I don't think so. It's really
No,
just keeping the board informed
Yeah.
on that it's still ongoing and where they're at. So I think it's really
appreciate that.
self-explanatory.
No, I thought it was really good.
And nice that they're keeping everybody you know, up to date with what's going on.
Yes. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The next one would be our improvements to the walkway between Meadow Drive and Cook Drive in Whitianga. And on my printed copy, that's page 19. Is Derek going to talk to us? Is he here?
Probably a little bit ahead of schedule.
Well, we are going very fast.
I can, I've just got a comment on that. I couldn't find it for a while, but I did find it yesterday.
Oh, the footpath, the walkway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I walked along and I thought, this is crazy. It's a footpath. And then suddenly it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yes. So I have sympathy because the concrete is fine and then it dips into what is effectively a swamp.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't walked that one.
Yeah.
And in the winter, it's real yuck.
Only thing I'm unsure of is the popularity of the walk, assuming it's
It's probably not very popular if it's, you know,
Yeah,
swampy,
it's not
but
yeah,
useful.
but it seems rather odd.
I think this has been around, I've had a couple of calls about it when I first came on board, and I think
Yeah.
this is where this has come from.
Yeah.
But also, as you have now Coupe connecting to
Yes.
that end,
Yes.
you're going to have a whole heap more houses
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
more people using it.
Sure. But it's a relatively short distance from the road.
If you go around versus
Yeah.
through the
So
walkway.
I'm just curious to know the popularity of the walk, assuming that it was negotiable.
I think it's quite important too, as we talk about Wharekaro, which I understand has got a state high application. Is there more people on that bit of walkway, potential walkway, and is there more hazard than what there is on this one? And if that was the case, would we be doing Wharekaro and not this one?
good point.
There is no state highway in sorry, Meadow Drive is concerned.
No, I agree.
And
We pay for a lot of that,
yeah,
but the one down State High,
Yeah.
we pay half.
yes, yeah.
And I'm just saying, where is the most benefit? And where is the most risk? That's just my reason.
Sure.
Well,
Mark.
my comment is the same. If you look at the benefit of this, is it much, is it just an easy project to do? So we'll do it for 15,000 and get it out of the way? Or should we actually be taking this 15,000 and say, no, it can go into something else? We don't need to spend this money and put it into something else. They have a bit of the attitude of, I'm not convinced we need to do it, but if we do it, we'll go to option 3.
Turn your mic off, Jeremy.
What's that, sorry?
You've got some funny grinding noises coming from your end, so maybe turn your mic off until you speak.
I don't know. Is it you? Are you in a workshop?
Is it a hotel room?
Yeah, that's
could-
right.
could be-
I don't, well, Delhi says it's me, but I'm not sure it is.
No, it might not be. Could just be the connection.
Just trying to get Derek on. Speak on. Oh, is it? Yeah.
Come in,
I
Derek.
can't see him.
Just
Kia
like
ora,
to say-
I'm here, but
Oh, you are there. Hello.
I've come through part way, you were talking about coupe. Are you talking about my paper now?
Yes, we are. We're up to item 3.1.
Wow, you guys are quick movers.
We
No
never
flies
muck
on us.
around in Whitianga.
No, evidently, sorry, I've been caught napping. I thought I was on at 9:50 or something. But anyway, good morning, board. How can I help you?
We're just having some discussions about the Meadow Drive and Cook Drive walkway.
Yes.
The question was raised was how well utilised it might be.
So we haven't done any form of needs analysis over that. So that's a difficult question to answer, but we are responding to a request to install it. And half of the walkway is actually, or half of that area is actually already concreted. So if you're coming in from Meadow Drive, that side is already done to not quite the halfway mark. And so the request is to complete the concreting from the Cook Drive end to meet up with the already concreted portion.
So through the chair, was that a request from a local resident, an RFS?
Yes, and I believe the actual, so it stems back, I'm just trying to find the details, stems back for several years, and the request actually came from the community board through the member of the public.
Yeah.
The concern that I've got is that if it was extended, which in winter time is certainly helpful, it only takes you to Cook Drive. So getting from Cook Drive to the beach, I'm not aware that there's any other, a connection, so you can keep on walking through.
But there is footpath.
There is footpath, yes. Yeah, but that's across, not to the beach. Yeah. So, but Meadow Drive, it's not that far to get on the footpath to get to Cook Drive. So I'm inclined to agree with Murray that money might be better spent on the Wharekākā one, which doesn't have a footpath at all.
On the other hand, it could be argued it cleans up a mess we've started. And
Yeah, get something off those. Did you want to say something?
Correct. So through the chair, there is a portion of road reserve that leads from Cook Drive to Bruce Street. I'm not sure if the board's aware of that or not. And then Bruce Street leads on to Buffalo Beach Road.
Yes.
So it's, are you talking about another grass strip that people could use for access?
That's correct, yes.
But we're only talking about getting this footpath to Cook Drive, not all the way through to Bruce Street.
That's correct. But in terms of this, there is a connection there. And I suppose the feeding through logically in terms of if you did concrete this portion, then there would be future requests to then concrete the section from Cook Drive to Bruce Street.
What's the thinking?
I would rather throw it at Wharekākā, personally.
I think the danger is not imminent. Yes, it is a mess. And yes, it is a bit boggy when the weather's not very good, but I think it's probably better to defer that to when we have budget. It's a bit like we do with the grants sometimes and decide to give a decent amount to one organisation that's going to have greater benefit, and maybe looking at our footpath allocation, we need to see how much we can throw at Wharekākā.
Okay.
And I do have a conflict of interest because I'm building up there.
Thank you for letting us know that.
So I'm trying to step outside of that and look at the fact that...
The other side of the coin, it's a relatively small amount of money. We're only talking little stuff. It gets the money bit out of it, puts something to bed that's been there for years. That's been, I don't think it's the best way to use the money, but I'm prepared to let it go to get a little tiny bit finished and gone and out of their head.
I'd support that thinking.
Through the chair, I was just going to jump in and probably provide similar advice to Councillor McLean on that. If you look at the costs for Wharekākā to do a footpath out there, they're very high. So $15,000 is not going to go far for doing the Wharekākā footpath. So I know it's not an easy decision, because you're trying to look at where you're going to get your best bang for buck. But if you look at 15,000 out at Wharekākā is going to provide you a very, very short bit of not much. Where potentially, I think Councillor McLean is right, you can actually tidy up a section within town and move on from that. So that would be my advice.
Yeah. My concern through the chair was not the money, but the usage, because it doesn't seem not to go anywhere. However, I can't argue against the size, the cost of it versus Wharekākā. So yeah, I'm happy.
Tony?
Yeah, I agree with where it's going, because the cost to do Wharekākā is significant. And I know they start to mention walking and cycling. With the footpath at Wharekākā now, those two don't go together. In fact, they hardly go together on the Hoppers path around the bay now.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think if we're talking about pedestrians and cycling on Wharekākā Road, that part of State High, it's a much different discussion, because that to me is a totally re-engineered road and what's on the side of the road for pedestrians and pushchairs and bicycles and e-bikes. So I think it's way bigger than a footpath. You know, it's, they don't work together on those narrow paths. So I'm
supportive of option 3.
Yeah, it's there, it cleans something up, let's clean it up for a relatively small amount of money.
Yeah.
Jeremy, did you have any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I'm happy to support it. I would like to see. I do question whether the next step will be the continuation of the path, but I'm happy to run with it for now.
Okay. So do I get a sense that option 3?
Yeah, I'll move.
Yeah. Moved by Murray, seconded by Tony. All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Carried. Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you. Cheers. Catch you later.
Okay, thanks. So, item 4.1 on page 21 is an application for a licence to occupy at Waitaia Road in Kuatunu. Do we have Ed?
Good morning, all.
Oh, look at that. Hello, Ed.
Can you shimmy back a bit, Phil?
Good morning.
That way.
He just popped into our screen when we were
That way, just a
whispering his name. Good morning.
Everything appears to have just frozen on me.
We can hear you and we can see you.
Right, that's fine. Right, thank you. Basically, this is a simple license to occupy for an existing gate and fence line. The situation here is that adjacent development highlighted to us the position of the fence and gate were within the road reserve rather than on the boundary. There are no issues that we can see with it being retained in its current position, and we'd recommend that a license to occupy is given for the fence line and gate at that location.
Okay, any questions of Ed? No? So did I get a mover and seconder?
I'll move.
Moved by Tony, seconded by Bill. All those in favour? Sorry, Jeremy, did you want to say something?
No, happy.
Good, okay, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Ed. But I believe you're the next item as well?
That's correct, yes.
Item 4.2.
4.2.
This is 151 South Highway.
This is correct. This is a request for road stopping of a section of land outside 151 South Highway West in Whitianga. We've done research into this, and the area of land has basically been like that for a considerable length of time, even when this was state highway. We've been unable to establish if there is any previous history regarding this, but currently there is no requirement for this area of land to be retained, apart from the position of an electricity transformer and underground services to that location. We've spoken to the power company regarding this. They are quite happy for any residual land to be disposed of to the owner, provided that they have a section of access land retained around the transformer and also access to their underground services. The land would be sold to the owner at market value. There's no possibility of separate development associated with it. It's too small for a residential plot. So the intention with this is that this would be simply amalgamated back into 151 South Highway West.
Okay, thank you.
So there's nothing adjoining Ed, this is just an oddball piece?
It's a piece of random land, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yeah, the photos.
Yeah, it's. All right, may I get a mover and a seconder for this?
I'll move that one.
Thanks, Dally, seconded by Bill. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
Carried. Thanks. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Footpath construction program.
Is that Ed? No, that's George.
Matthew.
Okay.
Good morning.
All right. Oh, look at everybody just popping in. This is incredible. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
Very coordinated.
Yeah. Well done, roading team. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. So, George, talk to us about footpaths.
Yeah. So this is for this year footpath construction program. So we found 3 options: one on state highway, one on our local network, and 3 to do the power line undergrounding. And option 1 is the high priority list based on the community request. As you can see, that's all on state highway. And option 2 is based on RFS, request for service, from various rate groups, ratepayer group, and individual people. And the option 3 was actually a plan from last year, but that actually we done some works for that, including the archaeological report. So the final decision will be made by the community board, how we should forward the program.
Okay. Can I get a mover and a seconder for this report?
Receive it. I'll need to receive the report, but not the report.
Okay. Thank you, Murray.
I'll second.
Thank you, Delhi. Right.
Okay, so
Discussion.
there's a bigger
Yes, there's a
discussion to
bigger-
be had around this.
Absolutely.
In light of the Wharekāho discussion, do we bring that front and centre before we look at the options, or would you like to run that?
When I read this, I don't know, but in my mind, I thought that the Pumpkin Flats, you know, Kuatunu to the sort of shop, that section of road was sort of utmost importance. So, I don't know, maybe we all remember things differently.
But the Pumpkin Flat one, wasn't that in conjunction with Waka Kotahi as
They
well?
all are.
They all will be.
Yeah,
Because it is state highway.
so we have to coordinate with them to get payment for that to go ahead, don't we?
Yes, and it looks like their priorities don't match up with our priorities.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
So for me, I think Kuatunu and Wharekāho, because they are on state highways, would have precedence over 50k per hour zones. I don't know what anyone else feels. Depends how much money's in the pot as well.
Well, I certainly think there's some priority in those 2 areas that you just mentioned. Did you want to say something, Tony?
Oh, no, I was going to just mention that, you know, there is budget here for those areas in Wharekāho. And, but it does require NZTA, and NZTA base all their spending on evidence based, so they run on science. So I don't know what that is. If they've got heavier foot traffic somewhere else, they'll have a higher priority somewhere else. So, but Bruce would be, but I think just because we've got money available, it doesn't mean to say NZTA are going to match it, which is only roughly the case.
So how do they make their decisions?
So through the chair, I don't quite know, but basically they have their
Honesty, well done.
yeah, I like that. They've got their priorities that are set by government, you know, so their priorities can be different to our priorities. And then obviously there's a whole lot of other things going on all around the country. We've got a whole lot of bridge replacements required down the South Island after all the floods and the damage down there. So what you often see with NZTA is that they'll have their priorities, but then things will change and suddenly the money gets moved around. And so Ed and the roading team have really had a challenge this calendar year, more than any other previous year where I've been involved in the roading activity, around changing priorities from NZTA. So they've really jumped all over the place. And even their funding of footpaths or community boards is really up in the air at the moment. And so everything is moving around a lot with NZTA, and it's very hard to know where things will actually land. If Ed's still on the line, he might want to provide further comment on the challenges around funding for footpaths that we have with NZTA at the moment.
Yes, thank you, Bruce. I'm still on the line. I thought I'd be needed. If I may, through the chair, firstly, on the funding levels, NZTA have in the past contributed roughly 50% to the community council's budget for footpath construction. This is not likely to happen this year or in the next 3 financial years carried on under the current LTP. So effectively, our footpath construction budget is halved. For NZTA proposals, where they're proposed by NZTA on the state highway, we will have no actual control over those projects. The likelihood is that they will arrange for their design and construction, and that we will then be asked to contribute to it. So the contribution would be effectively the community board rate. The option 2 that we've provided basically is on the assumption that NZTA will fund and construct the works on State Highway 25 themselves, that would fulfil the desire for the community for those paths. I'm aware that NZTA has already met the local community and has given an undertaking to them about that. Our option 2 is basically to assume that NZTA funding deals totally with the state highway, and that we then refocus our funding into areas which we could control within the existing road network. So basically, we're in a situation where we have no surety that NZTA will undertake the works on the state highway, which I acknowledge are the community priority. If they do, we have no control over them. Our budget contribution may well be less than is required by the agency to undertake the work or top up the work, which could result in those works being either shortened or cancelled. The agency funding could be removed to supplement other areas, or it could actually go ahead without any problems. My opinion is that that's probably the least likely of the scenarios that we've got. As I say, option 2 that we put forward is to actually focus our funding into the areas where we actually have control over the works that will be undertaken.
All right, thanks, Ed. Murray, you've got a question, and Tony, you've got a question.
So am I correct, and as I read it, we've got a budget of 162k this year?
No, that was prior to NZTA confirming or partially confirming. This is still subject to review, but the budget is actually around 80,000 this year, half of what was originally anticipated.
So I've got here under 3 confirmation required 162,000. So the budget availability is now cut in half to 80,000. You're telling me of council.
The total budget there, 162, is the NZTA contribution and the council contribution.
And the NZTA contribution is unknown.
It's about half.
So essentially we're talking about 80k.
That's correct, yes.
So my thoughts then, and then my next thought, being 80k being a little bit of money to do any of these works, is it essential that we pass this resolution now? Because to me, what you've told me is a hell of a lot of unknowns. And do we let it sit on the table for 3 months and hope we get something a little bit more concrete where we know we can get our spend our 80k and get the best value for money?
That is an option, yes.
Thank you.
Do you know, when I look at this, I look and we have 2 communities like Wharikaho and out at Longreach, And these are reasonably recent developments. And there's obviously been a lot of people build and buy and move in. And where are we in talking to the developer? I know the gate is well shut on that, but these conversations need to be had well before. Because here we are trying to scramble and spend $80,000 across this ward. We've got two very, very recent developments here.
So through the chair, you definitely can have those conversations with developers at that time, but it's not as easy to go, you're doing a development, therefore you need to provide the whole footpath there. So what they do is obviously development contributions, they contribute, developers contribute development contributions, which then go into some of these projects which fund these. So these potentially could be funded by those development contributions. But the real challenge is, again, what Ed's been talking about and what Councillor McLean's picked up on is that Council's budget is 160. There's two revenue lines. One is from community board funding and the other is from NZTA. Now, if NZTA have turned off that 80k revenue line, we could still go ahead and do the 160, but it would mean that the community board would end up funding the whole thing. So I don't think the idea is a bad one to hold fire and just wait to try and get some clarity. I know this is incredibly frustrating for the board as it is for staff that, we've locked in our LTP and now suddenly our funding is moving around based on government funding, and and I really feel for Ed and the team in that we don't have any clarity over what we're actually going to get at the moment. All we keep hearing about is that isn't guaranteed, it's under review, we can't tell you when we're going to have it landed. If we do tell you, it'll drag out. So we thought everything would be landed. Our indications prior to the LTP being landed, when we got notification mid-June, was that they've confirmed it all in August. At the end of September, we still haven't had anything confirmed. Everything's changing. The only risk to doing the pause, which I think the pausing is the way to go, the only risk though is the time left to actually achieve something in the financial year construct. So again, we're trying to balance, a couple of different things here, but again, my personal view would be the whole is probably not a bad idea to wait for some better clarity.
Just a thought, and it's very frustrating for those people in those communities as well, and I think they need to see that we're listening to what they require and taking some action on their behalf. And I'm just wondering whether or not we could capture some information about the number of new builds and things in those locations and actually lobby NZTA, push pause, but lobby and say, we have evidence here that says there are now, X number of new dwellings. The situation, the landscape has changed a lot. There are a lot of families moving into that area. The speed limit is 80 through one of them and 70 through the other. We think this is a high priority and actually try and get someone to come to the table.
You can always try.
Yeah. Well, I think you've got to, when you're an elected body and people are out there going, we really need a footpath and they're really distressed about it, you have to have a go at it on their behalf.
Murray.
I'm going to move a motion in a minute, but can I speak beforehand? And what I want just to think is, it's 15,000 to do that little bit of Cook Drive. We don't get subsidy, we're talking 80k. 80k is going to be spent in no time flat. So I would like to move that this lie on the table until our December meeting.
December.
And we can pick it up then and we can put it down again.
Yeah.
That's another 2 months. We might get some clarity, we may not.
In the meantime.
And we can pick it up, we can put it aside again if we want.
Okay.
But just double check if I get picked up.
Think that where we don't have NZTA funding guaranteed, we partner and deal with what we can deal with. But I think this is an item that's we're going off. And I'd also say NZTA, every single subdivision or anything with a road that happens in New Zealand, that's their modus operandi. So I think what Dave's saying is right, we should be going there because the Forakarau subdivision couldn't have gone ahead without NZTA sign-off.
Yep.
The fact that NZTA didn't make a condition of it, that they might put money in to provide the links on foot or cycles. I think this is something that we should have our comms people, and not to what do you put around it? They put the facts into all local print media and indeed make it the topic of the radio interviews for the next few weeks. And that is the struggle that we have with these projects, particularly the ones that come with joint funding, and exactly what Bruce has raised. So we've all gone through this long-term plan process that we knew this would come, because it'll come to water too, is that at the end of the day, for all the work we do, the government can have a change of heart or a change of direction, and everything we've done goes out the window. So I would be asking that our comms team, like this goes to the top of the list, at least for comms in Mercury Bay, because there are plenty of people talking around here about footpaths.
And Jeremy? Thanks, Tony. Jeremy?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions for Bruce and Ed. From if we were to receive the funding from Kakai, they would give us essentially a cap of 50%, right? So that works out roughly over 3 years, about $500,000 on the current budget. Best case, is that correct? First.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the combined
Check.
lease.
It's just shy of $500,000 from over 3 years.
Yes, that's in section 3 of the assessment of options. The budget's 162, 166, and 169 over the 3 years. So yeah.
Yeah. So from my side, I was just going to say. Yeah, was that what's that, Murray? Sorry.
That is council and NZTA. So.
I've got that part of it. Yep, I've got that part of it. But what I did pick up on what Ed was saying is that if we can, as Tony's saying, lobby NZTA to take this project on themselves, they'll ask us to contribute. But I assume that's going to be a lot less than paying 50% as a dual project. So for me, that's our best solution as far as the Whahi Kaho footpath. And then I guess you look at even just the other projects. It's not a lot when you look at some of the values of some of these projects over 3 years. So it's not as if we can sit here and say we're going to do all these projects anyway. We're only going to do a small amount of them. So, yeah, I guess, but I'm very much in Murray's camp. I'd rather let it lie until we have more information, but trying to lobby NZTA to take this Whahi Kaho project on, because I think it is an important part of it, and it also tailors into the cycleway project going forward, you know. So I think it needs to have a cycle component to it as well.
Okay, I've got Bruce and then Murray.
I was just going to ask a question of Bruce. And you might
why don't we go Murray then Bruce?
My question of Bruce, have we had confirmation of the NZTA rating subsidies being reduced yet, and is it public knowledge?
Through the chair, we haven't had any discussions around our subsidy rate being reduced. So we're on a 51% subsidy rate from NZTA. So everything I've seen, unless Ed jumps in and corrects me, everything I've seen is not about changing that rate. It's about the different categories and putting money into those different categories. And so the latest information that's just come out in the last few weeks is around these footpath budgets and funding of those. So but again, it's all under review. So under review is a term they use, which means that we don't have any clarity. What I was going to say was I think Jeremy's idea actually is a very good idea, which links up with Murray's idea. If we put it on hold, that'll also hopefully give us a bit of time to wait and see what NZTA's design work comes out from Whahi Kaho. So there might be an option if we put it on hold and sit with our 80K or whatever it is, that there might be some ability to use that to further the NZTA Whahi Kaho project. Because obviously I think in George's report, it says there that they're currently designing the footpath and that they intend to apply for a funding contribution to us. So
that's the Corrigg one.
Oh, is that Corrigg?
Yeah, it's Corrigg.
Oh, is it? Okay.
They haven't prioritised. They haven't prioritised putting it down.
Thank you. I need to read a little bit carefully. But I think basically I still think the option of just holding for a couple of months is a good option, because that will let things, hopefully, we'll get some clarity and things will settle down. So.
Do you agree that we lobby at the same time though? I'm not happy to just sit on my hands, but to gather some data and put some compelling information to NZTA.
I think that's a good idea.
So I agree with that, absolutely. But there are more people walking down one part of Hamilton, wanting footpaths, in a day than walk up and down there in a year.
Yep.
So just be mindful that NZTA aren't cherry picking. NZTA make decisions on evidence. And so with the best will in the world, for me, from a staff perspective, if they sat there and said, well, wait a minute, we think there's 1,000 movements down here a week, but there are other places in New Zealand that have 1,000 an hour, how much time and money should we invest in that, knowing that that won't get over the line? So there is a way bigger thing. These decisions aren't made on emotion anymore and lobbying, they're made on evidence. And I think, so I agree we should be doing it, if only for them to give us an answer that we don't want, and then at least we put it out there. But for me, the important thing now is our communities know what we grapple with. And what I might add, $80,000 won't pay for the health and safety of put footpath in.
No, in the traffic management.
Correct.
No. Yes.
I hear what you're saying, Tony, but I also think that, you know, the 1,000 people an hour is probably on a footpath in a 50k area quite often. And I think we still have that compelling, this is state highway, this is high speeds, intersecting with people and families and pets and God knows what else. So we've got to give it a go.
I agree.
Yep. I think that's good.
That's compelling evidence.
Absolutely. Okay, so where does that leave us in terms of, you were going to put a motion?
I've put my motion that it lie on the table until December.
Okay.
I'll second that.
November.
November's our last meeting for the year.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But I want, in that resolution, can we put that we will put a case to NZTA prior to our November meeting?
I don't think you can, because it's a procedural motion, not an ordinary motion.
Oh, okay.
We can put it as an action though.
An action.
You can put it in action.
Cool.
We can do that?
Donna. Yeah.
Thank you, Donna. So Murray's put the motion, it's been seconded by Jelly. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None carried. Okay, fabulous. That takes us to item. Oh, thanks, Ed, and thank you, George.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
We do forget about our disembodied voices.
Yes.
Sometimes, don't we?
That takes us to our work program, item 4.4, page 39 of my printed document here. May I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report? Tony, seconded by Dally.
Yep.
And Jeremy. Okay, any discussion?
Yes. Guys,
Go.
happy for me to start, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Just on the cycleway, I noted one of the action points was creating a steering group. Have we got anyone can update us on where that's at?
What page are you on, mate?
It's on the works program.
The strategy is on page
42.
Yes, thank you.
Top 42.
Yep, gotcha.
George has just
We
gone.
just lost George. I don't know.
It's.
Ed, are you able to comment on that at all? About the cycleway development? Formation of a project steering group required.
I know, Jeremy, when they did this cycle strategy initially, they had members of the community involved in that.
Yeah.
So there was someone from Bike Mercury Bay, and I know Anna Horn, and a few sort of, as well as sort of Andrew Scobie and others. So it was actually done with the community. I would imagine they would ignite something like that again.
With disability groups involved too.
Yes, that's right. If you didn't hear what Alan said, there was disability groups involved as well, and maybe the school, I think, someone from the school. So it was a wide sort of cross-section of people that would use bikes that came together to do the cycle strategy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, through the chair, I know George has got a list of the people he wants involved. I don't have an update for you further to that, but I had to talk with him about it probably 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
I think we're going to be very careful about how we do this, because we simply raise expectations once we start talking about these things, and a lot of it's idealism. I'm saying we're green, but the issues aren't as easy as painting a line on a road, unless you're going to say no cars. So there are marked out places in Whitianga that are clearly for cyclists. So they're there. And they aren't in Albert Street, and they aren't in the middle of town, because when we did that work, that was you ride your bike to town, or drive your car to town, and then you get out of it and you walk. So down these other roads, now if we're going to talk about anything that connects, it's basically redesign of roads and drainage. It's not as simple as actually saying cyclists go there. So no, I think people have to understand that they don't come with paint, they come with engineering and a lot of money. And we need to be careful we don't raise someone's expectations for something we can't deliver or will take a long time to deliver. That's my...
And that's what the steering group will work with, and then they will also look at how to tap into external funding to make some of these things happen. I think the process needs to happen, and you know, what falls out of that, then we sort of work with that. I get your point in that managing expectations, but also we want to create something, and it may just be in places that it's paint on roads.
Well,
that's what will come out of this work, I'm assuming.
Well, we've heard about this for the 10 years I've been here, about cycling. We were the first ward in the Thames-Coromandel district to have a cycling stretch, and that was already aimed as being able to get funding. So I think we already know where the pressure is. So Cook Drive would be one place where the majority of traffic using bikes going to school is probably in that vicinity. So if we're going to do it, we could go and do that now without talking to anyone. So what I'm saying is we've been talking for over 10 years I know about, and we know what the limitations are, and we're going to get another group talking. And for me, I think it's been a time we actually said, well, are we in it or are we out of it? And if we're in it, where are we going to start? Because we won't be able to do it all at once. It'll be a schedule over 10 or 20 years to do it.
So
I guess that's my point is.
Sorry, carry on, Jeremy.
Oh, sorry to talk over people. I was a bit with Tony is, yeah, I'm just keen to see if we're going to do it in some form, let's sort of start moving forward in some direction. Well, you know, who knows what that direction is, but we've got it down as a work program. Let's keep moving forward with it, I guess. It's certainly been on, you know, it's been on the horizon since I've been part of the community board, and I'd just like to see it sort of at least get some direction or some momentum anyway, in some form.
Yeah, I totally support that, to get it moving and getting it done. Right, did you have anything else, Jeremy?
Yeah, I just probably for Bruce, I've had a number of phone calls and emails just regarding where the water situation and wastewater with Hahe. I know there's obviously a lot of exploration drilling been going on for water. I just wonder if you give us a bit of an update on where we are with that.
Yeah, so there has been quite a lot of work going on around the drilling, and you would have seen the emails, I think, Jeremy, regarding access to land and all the rest of that side of things. So yeah, that project is moving on as well as it can do, I think. Obviously, it's been a little bit challenging with COVID lockdowns and keeping drillers locked into cities where instead of out here on the peninsula. So yeah, that has been a bit of a challenge, but I'm comfortable things are moving forwards. They never moved as quick as what we'd like them to move, but I'm confident that we're moving forward in that regard. I don't really have any better update for you than that. Sorry at this stage.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Right. Did anyone else have any comments?
No. Thank you. All looks good to me.
I don't even know what my notes relate to. Did we get a mover and seconder for the report?
We did.
Thanks. Okay, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? None. Carried. It is 10 a.m. Would you like a cup of tea? Right. We're just going to take a 15-minute break to get a cup of tea and hopefully a chocolate biscuit.
Are we still recording?
No. We should. Oh,
We were on mute. Hang on a minute.